my nerves and you rattle my brain. Too much love drives a man insane. You broke my will, oh, what a thrill. Girl, this your records just quitting balls of fire.
He is known as the Killer, probably the most charismatic rocker of the 50s, Jerry Lee Lewis. Now, the movie Great Balls of Fire is based on the book written by his third wife, Myra, and its focus is on a 2-year period, 1956 to 1958, when Jerry rocketed to superstardom and then suffered his first downfall. Now, tonight we'll talk with Dennis Quaid, who plays Jerry Lee Lewis in the movie, as well as Winona Ryder, who plays Myra. But first, Jerry Lee Lewis, welcome to Good Rockin' Tonight.
Thank you, sir. It's a great honor and a great pleasure on Father's Day here to be living and kicking.
You are a brilliant musician and a brilliant singer. Who taught you how to play piano?
I taught myself, sir, how to play piano. When I was 8 years old, my folks bought me a piano. And I taught myself to play. I created my own style, and that's probably debatable, too. But there's a lot of piano players in my family and a lot of singers, and either a preacher or a rock and roll singer. So I chose rock and roll.
I want to love it like a lover should.
First piano we got, sir, my mother and dad bought for me, mortgaged their home. Well, I was just a child, bought it for me. An old Stark upright piano. It was, to me, the greatest piano in the world.
Goodness gracious, quick balls of fire.
What is the real story behind that kicking back your stool and then playing piano standing up?
Between Scotty Moore, Carl Perkins, everybody's taking credit for this deal. And they can have it. But my boot got hung in the piano stool. I just stood up. I see what kind of reaction I would get, but just standing up, and it embarrassed me. It flipped the stool over, and I said, oh, God, yeah. And he just didn't do things like that. And the crowd kind of went crazy, like, you know. Whether they were running from it or for it, I don't know. But we've been doing it ever since.
You broke my will, what a thrill. Goodness, your records just quitting balls of fire.
Hardest thing I ever did in my life. I mean, it's also the most fun I ever had on a movie as well. And I had a year to prepare for it. So I was at the piano for 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, for a year. Had 2 piano teachers and a day.
Dennis, can you remember the first time you heard Jerry Lee Lewis?
Yeah, I was 4 years old. I was in the back of my dad's car, in the back seat, and I stopped at a train crossing, and Great Balls of Fire comes on the radio. My dad turned it up, and I started jumping up and down, put my head through the headliner of the car. He got all mad, but he didn't turn down the radio.
I've ruined your career. You never should have married me. Everything was fine till me.
Myra, Bay Dog, you're my wife, and I love you. And I'll marry you 100 times to prove it if I have to.
Great Balls of Fire takes in Jerry Lee's rise to fame and fortune via sold-out concert tours and smash singles such as Whole Lotta Shakin, Great Balls, and Breathless, to his first downfall when the Killer took his new bride to London, England. Hostile reporters discovered she was not only his cousin, but she was 13 years old.
What was that?
He said Mr. Presley is the true king of rock and roll.
You know, y'all would have lost the war without us. You just think about that.
You think your expulsion from England is a repudiation of rock and roll?
They canceled Jerry Lee's tour because of our marriage, not because of his music.
Winona, what's the difference between portraying a real character and a fictional character?
Well, there's a road that's already paved for you when you're playing a real-life person. You can't invent stuff. You can't use your imagination to make up reasons why she's saying this. There's already reasons, and it's very hard. You also have an obligation to the person that you're portraying, if they're alive especially. You have an obligation, and not only to the film and to the director and the audience, but to this actual person who's going to see it. And if they don't approve of you, then you sort of just want to die. At least that's the case with me, but she did, so.
I like playing real people. Somebody who's actually living. It's a gold mine, you know. You don't have to invent anything. And yeah, especially with Jerry Lee Lewis, it was great about it, because if he was a fictional character, I don't think people would believe it, you know. Yeah, he's such a singular person, and a lot of fun to play.
Myra, ain't it?
Yeah? Who are you?
Well, I'm your daddy's cousin. I'm Jerry Lee Lewis from Faraday, Louisiana. Your Aunt Mamie's boy.
I heard about you. Yeah, they
say you're a wild one.
Well, when it comes to playing this here piano, you are looking at the wildest mother of them all.
Winona, you play some pretty steamy love scenes with Dennis Quaid.
Well, I had never done a real love scene before. I had done sort of pre-sex and post-sex scenes. I'd never done the actual scene, so it was very awkward, and I was very nervous, but at the same time, my character was very awkward and very nervous about it, so I sort of used my butterflies as her butterflies, and it translated that way, so I was sort of lucky.
Dennis, what was the most difficult scene to play?
Well, I think the Great Balls of Fire scene where the piano is on fire. It's tough because it was like 35 takes. It was all day long, and you know, we had a nice tan by the end of the day.
I'm gonna tell this world that you're mine. That you're my love and I'll put on the phone. I'm real nervous, but it sure is fun. Come on, baby, it drives me crazy. The goodness gracious is great balls of fire.
I'm telling you, he's had some kind of a life, and we only play from like 21 to 22 when he was that age, which was really the happiest time of his life. And all the drugs and alcohol and tragedies came really later, and we sort of touch on that in our film about which way his life is going.
When you hear about your personal life, Jerry, it's really been one of extremes, from highs to extreme lows. Do you figure it's God's way of testing you?
Well, I'm beginning to really get worried about it. I mean, you know, here lately, in the last couple of weeks, every time I go on stage and do a show, it starts to raining. I go to California to get my Hall of Fame sidewalk deal, and it's an earthquake. And I'm beginning to wonder what's going on here, if I'm really being smothered or what, you know. It's either between God or the archangel here. These people telling me something, or what? I mean, supreme beings, you know. I believe that.
I think goodness gracious is great balls of fire.
It's trivia time, and I have got T-shirts, posters, cassettes, and electronic Great Balls of Fire buttons, courtesy of Orion Pictures and Polygram Records, to give away to some lucky winners. Your question: what is the title of Jerry Lee Lewis's first top 20 hit? Our address is Jerry Lee Lewis, Good Rockin' Tonight, Box 4600, Vancouver, BC, V6B 482.